Hey mama, it's Chris. Real quick before we jump into the episode, I have a question for you. How clean is your kitchen right now? Come on, be honest. I don't mean it needs to be sparkling, but can you easily find the tools you need for efficient cooking? Can you find what you need out of the fridge in a moment's notice? Does your pantry feel a bit like a dungeon lined with cans, or would it make Clea and Joanna proud? Can you actually tell me what's in the back of your freezer? If you answered no, dungeon, and nope, you need the Spring Clean. The Spring Clean Your Kitchen Challenge is a free challenge I'm hosting throughout the month of April where we're spending 4 weeks decluttering, reorganizing, and setting ourselves up for a healthy, balanced kitchen. With simple and practical systems you can actually maintain that don't just look pretty, but actually help you to become a more efficient cook. To join the free challenge and get the weekly printables, as well as join the private challenge Facebook group for weekly live videos, community support, and prizes, head to healthybalancedmama.com/springclean. All right, let's jump into the episode.
Rest in music. It makes the music more beautiful, those moments of silence. And I love to make sourdough bread, and you rest your dough when you're making it, and that makes it better. And white space on a wall it makes the few pictures that are there stand out more rather than a whole wall crammed with photos. And I just think that, God's created our bodies to, just like those examples, they turn out better and more beautiful when rest is incorporated. He's designed our bodies the same way. And when he created creation, he rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because he was role modeling to us how he wanted us to take care of our bodies.
Living a healthy, balanced life is no small feat, especially when you're a mom. With meals to cook, laundry to load, work to do, and humans to raise, it can be easy to feel like we're in an on-again, off-again relationship with healthy living. But it doesn't have to feel this way. I believe living a healthy life has become way too complicated. What we need isn't a new plan or program telling us what to eat or how to live. We need simple, uncomplicated routines and information that's going to help us live our best, most beautiful life without rules and restrictions. Join me, Kristin Dovbniak, holistic health coach, certified intuitive eating counselor, and mama of 2, for weekly conversations on what it means to live a healthy, balanced life, uncomplicate eating, and simplify in every area of mom life. Hey friends, welcome back to the Healthy Balanced Mama podcast. Can we talk about rest? Rest is a topic that, as today's guest so gently shared with me, we have not actually talked about in depth here on the podcast, but it's a really important topic, especially because many of us are busy women. We are busy moms, and oftentimes we can feel as though rest is something that we just simply don't have time for. We don't have time in the day. We have things to do. We get worried that if we rest from our workouts, that we're not going to get the results that we want, that we're not going to get to the next level in health and wellness. If we take rest from movement, that we're not going to get to the next level in our business. If we take rest from working, that resting is lazy, that resting is unproductive. We have so many things that we tell ourselves about why we shouldn't rest. And on the same side of things, we are also being told by society that rest makes us lazy, or rest makes us unproductive, or that rest is important, but make sure you're still knocking the things off your to-do list. Make sure you're hustling to get to the next thing that you want to be at. And then there's this whole past year that we've had, year plus, where many of us have not had the same opportunities to rest and restore like we have in the past. So rest can be something that feels next to impossible, sometimes even like something that we shouldn't do. But what happens when we don't rest? We eventually, inevitably, burn out. Today's guest is not only a friend and a former client, but she is also one of our Supermama Society coaches, and she is one of the best people I could think of to talk on the topic of rest. As she shares in this episode, Nyla has a past experience of a disordered relationship with food and fitness, and we connected about a year ago where she was really wanting to find the healthiest place possible with her own relationship with rest. And through our time working together, and through our time as friends in the last year, it has been so incredible to see her transformation of someone who has been creating this really incredible relationship with food and fitness and her body, but is now a coach and a light to other women in the same areas, being able to share with them her story of coming from a place of not allowing herself rest for literally decades to being in a place now where she welcomes rest and she brings it into her day, even the busiest days. And she shares with us today some of her most practical tips for getting rest from a movement perspective, from a mental, emotional perspective, and even a spiritual perspective. We had an incredible conversation, and I know that this is going to benefit so many of you. So for those of you who don't yet know her, Nyla Wiebe is a certified health and life coach trained in habit and mindset change, also holding a food and nutrition diploma and a host of fitness instructor certifications, who coaches through an intuitive eating, Christian, and Enneagram perspective. She works virtually one-on-one with women worldwide, helping them heal their relationship with food, fitness, and body image without dieting, obsession, or restrictions, but instead teaching them to tune in to their God-given body cues and wonderfully unique personalities. Friends, I know you are going to love Nyla, and I can't wait for us to dig into this conversation. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Nyla. Welcome, Nyla. I am so excited to have you on the Healthy Balanced Mama podcast. I feel like this episode has been a long time coming, and I'm just so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, this is wild because I found you on a podcast. You were a guest on a podcast I was listening to, and then I started listening to your podcast and I like binge listened to it all. And then, yeah, I remember following you on Instagram and messaging you. And then when you messaged me back, I felt like I was talking to a celebrity, like, oh, wow, like I listened to her on a podcast and she's messaging me, like, this is wild. So to be on your podcast, it just kind of feels surreal. It's like we've come full circle. I found you on a podcast and now I'm on a podcast with you. Like, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And we have connected so much in the past year, and I've already read your bio. So my listeners already know a little bit about you. But now you are one of our Super Mama Society coaches, and we have just connected so much on so many levels in the past year. And I know that you have so much value to bring my listeners. So this is going to be so great. You know that if you've listened to the podcast before, I love to start with just a fun little icebreaker. Are you up for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I did mention to you that I just started doing a new icebreaker, so you haven't heard this one yet, but what are you reading these days, Nyla?
Oh my goodness, I'm reading like 10 books. I'm one of those people who read 10 books at a time. I read a chapter of one and then the next day I go and read another chapter of a different one. And I feel like that's kind of a bad system for reading books because then I never actually finish them. And our library here, they recently took out their charges like for late fees. So I'm loving that so I can keep them a lot longer. But I'm reading a lot of stuff by like Brené Brown right now, The Gifts of Imperfection. And then there's a book on quiet, like the how to be an introvert in a world that can't stop talking. I'm an introvert, so I'm reading that one too. And those are the ones that come to mind. I know I have a bunch of other ones in my bedroom right now, but those are the ones that I can think of. Oh, I guess also The Road Back to You, the Enneagram, the famous, well-known one. I'm reading that one too. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, such good answers. I love Brené Brown and I love The Road Back to You. So those are awesome. And I'm going to need to get the name of the book that you mentioned on being an introvert because I feel like I could use that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just called Quiet, actually. Quiet. And then the subtitle is like The Gift or Being an Introvert in a World That Can't Stop Talking. But if you just search like Quiet, it's a gray covered book and you'll find it.
Oh, awesome. So, like I mentioned, I already shared your bio, but I would love if you would just start by sharing in your own words who you are and what you're passionate about bringing to the world.
Yeah, so I'm Nyla, like we said. I'm a wife, sister, daughter, really cool aunt. And I'm an intuitive eating and body image coach, and I coach from a Christian and Enneagram perspective. And yeah, I was telling my husband yesterday how much better life is when food isn't controlling me anymore or exercise isn't controlling me anymore. So I guess my passion in life is just to teach other people how to not let those things control them, because for so many years they were just dictating my life and I was obsessed with them. And yeah, I like we mentioned before we started talking, I have an ankle sprain, and in the past when I have gotten injuries and not been able to exercise, I was just devastated. Like my life crumbled and I just felt like it was just like the worst thing in the world to me in that moment. But now, since the work that I've done with intuitive eating and like intuitive movement, when I've had this ankle sprain, like I have such fun memories of just like sliding down the stairs on my bum, because that's easier when you can't like walk down the stairs, and just cracking jokes and just watching more Netflix with my husband. And like it's just, I don't know, I just want that for women, that in any season they find themselves in, that there can be freedom and joy with food and fitness. And yeah, so I guess I want to just share with people that. And like the other day I forgot to work out, and I was like, oh, whoops, I meant to, but like whatever. And that never would have happened before, because I was just thinking about food and fitness like 24/7. And yeah, I just want to give people that space in their minds to think about other things. So that's my passions in life.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm nodding along with you. And even though I know your story and I know your passion well, I so am with you in that I know that you know that in the past I was the same way. I could not imagine ever forgetting a workout. It would have been something that would have been top of mind because it was something I had to do, or else what would happen if I didn't do my workout? And having that freedom and that brain space to be able to live fully without being controlled by that and still live a life that is energized and vibrant without feeling really like bogged down by that need to fit into the certain mold of food and fitness is so, so powerful. So I think the work you do is so incredible. And I am so excited to dig more into our topic today. And, today we're going to talk about a topic that, I guess we've already started talking about it, right? But it's really familiar to both of us and it's really necessary. And I love that you so gently brought to my attention when we were talking that I haven't really talked about this on the podcast before. And that is the power of exactly what you're talking about, but rest and actually resting in our lives, rest from movement and rest in our lives. So I would love if you could just kind of dig a little bit deeper into your journey to learning to embrace rest from that place where you were trapped in this place of feeling like you had to get the workout in, you had to eat a certain way, to the place where you are now, where you can forget about a workout, where you can just slide down the stairs on your bum because you have an ankle that's not feeling too great. And you can actually watch more Netflix with your husband without stressing about it, but enjoying it. So, how did you get to the place you're in now?
Yeah, like I said before, in the past, rest would not have happy memories. It would be just terrible memories. And I just got so anxious if I couldn't get a workout in. And until I could get that workout in, I was so irritable with people. I just couldn't focus. It was just, yeah, I just couldn't. So then rest days were out of the question, because if I even the thought of taking a rest day just made me so anxious and just like have a panic attack. So then I just didn't do them. And I was thinking about it, and there for 20 years, I only took two rest days. I can remember two times I took them out of 20 years, and they were by like accident. And one of them was we went to Mexico for our honeymoon, and we were like on a resort there, and I got the flu when we were there. And so then I slept the whole day, and that was doable of a rest day because I wasn't dealing with the anxiety because I was asleep. But I just remember waking up the morning after that. I was feeling better the next day, and I was in a swimsuit, and I caught a glance of myself in the mirror, and I was like kind of dehydrated looking because I hadn't been eating or drinking very much that day, the day before, because I was sick. And I remember just thinking like, well, I guess it's okay that you didn't exercise yesterday because you didn't really eat much. So like, I guess that's okay. And now I can just see like there's so much disorder in that thought. But yeah, that was my head back there. That was how I thought about rest and exercise. And yeah, even on sick days, I would still like make myself walk for at least 30 minutes, or I would do yoga on days that I was maybe even had a migraine. And even though doing down dogs and sun salutations made me feel like so gross, I was like, no, you have to do this. And it's totally abusing a really healthy thing and using it in an unhealthy way. And yeah, I just remember like dropping weights on my foot or accidentally like punching myself in the face with a weight and getting like a bloody lip and still finishing the workout because it was like that was just my goal in life. But you need to finish this workout, and if you don't, that's the most terrible thing in the world. And I just had this fear that I was terrified that if I take a day off exercise, I'm going to stop exercising forever. And yeah, and then I started seeing other people on Instagram taking rest days, and they came back to the workouts. They took their break, they got recovered, and then they went back to workouts, and they said like it made them enjoy the workouts more and they looked forward to it. And I just craved that relationship with rest too. And I was just so tired mentally and physically. And then what really helped me was working with you as an intuitive eating and exercise coach. And you helped me with this. Before I started working with clients, I just had some things with rest that I wanted to work on. First, I was feeling really good with the food department, but I wanted to work on just the issues with rest. And I remember that you were helping me with this, and we had a plan that I was going to take a rest day after not taking them for years. And I woke up, or no, it was that night, like the night before I was going to take a rest day. I just could not sleep. I was just so anxious. And I remember in the morning sending you like this panic email, like, I can't do it. Like, this is so hard and scary. And I remember that you emailed me back, and what you said just was it was so life-changing. You said, what are you making rest days say about you as a person? And I thought long and hard about that. And I realized that I was making rest mean less worth. So then no wonder I didn't want to take a rest day, because it was like, if you take a rest day, you're not as worthy like of love, or you don't have that much human worth on those days. And so then just realizing why rest days were so scary to me was so helpful. And learning to source my worth correctly was game changer, realizing I just have worth. I don't have to gain it in a day. My worth, the number of my worth, it's just like this constant number. And resting or exercise or eating a certain way, it doesn't change that fixed value. That was game changer. Sourcing my worth. I'm a Christian, so sourcing my worth from the fact that he made me, so that means I have worth. And it's nothing to do with my looking or my doing, but just that he created me. And yeah, it was so hard at first, though, to take a rest day. I'm not going to lie, it was really, really hard. That first day was the hardest, but I just knew like, I don't want to keep living the same way. And each day it got easier and easier. Each rest day I took, I tried to take one a day, or not one a day, one a week. And it got easier and easier. And I was building up truth proof, I guess, in a way that like, hey, you did this a different day and nothing bad happened. Like, this day will be the same. It's going to be okay. And I know sometimes I had these thoughts like, oh no, like on a rest day, I would think like, by now I would have got a workout in, and I would get anxious. And then I would just remind myself, no, it's good that you don't resemble the old you. She wasn't happy. Like, you're trying a new way, and it's good you don't look like the old you and you don't have those old habits. And yeah, just learning the science of rest really helped me too, like how rest actually benefits your body and makes like the workouts you do, they're actually more effective when you give yourself some time to recover from them. And just observing too that I did enjoy my workouts more when I took a day off for them, or two, or however many my body needed that week, and I had better form and I could get more out of the workout. And yeah, I guess just also something that was so helpful was something again that you had said in, I think it was in one of your courses, maybe Uncomplicated Eating, you had used the phrase that like all food is morally neutral. And so then just to apply that to exercise, that movement, rest, like they're morally neutral too, just like food is. And food or exercise or rest, it doesn't have morals. Like, it can't choose good or bad choices like a human could. So since it doesn't have morals, like it can't make us bad or good for doing it or not doing it. Just that concept was so helpful. And yeah, I guess just Also, I'm an Enneagram 3, and sometimes I get this lie that I need to be productive 24/7. So redefining rest as like you are doing something when you're resting, you're being productive in the rest department, that there's different departments of productivity, not just your to-do list department, was really helpful. And yeah, so really just like coming back to my why, like, why do you want to change, Nyla? Because I'm tired of living this way, and working with a coach and outside help. That was just game changer for me. So yeah, that is my story in a nutshell. I hope that kind of paints a picture of what it was like and what it is now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much goodness there. And you can see me nodding along with you going, oh my gosh, I have been in a very similar place. And I think so many women can relate to this idea that you mentioned that if I stop, I won't be able to start again. We get this mindset that if we're on a roll and that roll stops, then it's all over. And I think, you brought up a good point that so many of us tie the way that we treat our bodies, whether it is, with food, with fitness, any of these things, with our worth, that we are better if we are doing, if we are striving in terms of fitness or in terms of eating in the best way possible. And so it does feel like when we take a day off from that, that we are doing something bad. Or socially too, there are so many health and wellness, people out there, well-meaning, that say things like no rest days, or, oh my gosh, what was one of the other ones when I was a fitness coach years ago? It was something about like, oh, never miss a Monday, right? It was never miss a Monday. It was, and there are all of these kind of negative, they're coming from the side of diet culture, right? And telling us that in order to be good, in order to be healthy, that we have to live up to these like crazy unrealistic expectations, like doing things like working out when we are super, super sore and our body is telling us that we need to rest. Or maybe we're not even sore, but it's been like, you said 20 years since you've taken a rest day and your body really needs that. We don't realize that, just like you said, rest can actually be productive, but so many of us don't look at it like that. So many of us look at it like, if I stop, I'm never going to start again. Or if I don't do this, then I've totally given up on all of my health and wellness goals or living a healthy life. And that's just so not true. But that is unfortunately what so much of the media and the health and wellness world tells us. And we don't talk enough about the benefit of rest, even though I think what's interesting, I know for myself, I was a personal trainer for a number of years. I taught group fitness classes, and it actually became even harder to take a rest day when we'll talk about all different forms of rest, but when we're talking about like actual physical rest from movement, it got really hard to take a physical rest day because I was teaching fitness classes all the time. And I remember at some point, even though I was in a very I was in a very unhealthy place with my relationship with food and movement at this time. And I hadn't quite recognized that yet, but I had recognized that I was really, really exhausted. And I remember being so nervous going to talk to the owner of the fitness company that I worked for and say like, hey, I need at least one day off because I can't do this. Because what I was trying to do was do my own workouts and then also teach fitness classes, which is just completely insane. I was basically doing double workouts every single day. Hindsight is 2020. But I remember being so nervous telling her that, not because she was the owner of the fitness company, but because it almost felt like a sign of weakness, me going like, oh, I'm just not fit enough to do my own workouts and then also teach fitness classes every single day of the week. Or it was like, 5 or 6 days a week. I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot and it was too much. And I remember her going, okay. She's like so sweet, and I'm still friends with her now. And she was like, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. If that's too much for you, we'll make it work. And I was just so shocked. I was like, okay, I guess I can do this. But sometimes it takes us getting to the point of being so physically exhausted that we realize something's got to change. But oftentimes we still don't admit to ourselves that that's what we need to do. I think many of us know how important rest is, but we still don't allow it for ourselves because of all of these things that we mentioned, right? Putting our worth in the way that we are moving or the way that we are just nonstop in our lives, or feeling that fear of our bodies changing or losing momentum because we take a day off. But it is so essential, like you mentioned, because our bodies come back better physically and mentally after rest. So I want you to expand a little bit more on why rest is so important for us. For the woman who's listening, who I know there are so many women listening and they're nodding and they're going, oh my gosh, that's me. And they might not want to admit it, but they might be like, okay, so tell me why. Why is rest important? Why is it important physically? Why is it important mentally? And how can we kind of encourage the woman listening to get a little bit of rest?
Yeah. So, like, from a physical standpoint, um, when we're exercising, like it's stress on your body. It's healthy stress, but it is stress. So your body needs a break from that stress. And um, you're also making little tiny tears in your muscles, like when you're working out, and then in that rest period, like I know you know this, your muscles are rebuilding themselves stronger. But if you're just constantly working out and just tearing those muscles, there's no rebuilding of the muscles, and they're not getting a chance to rebuild or rebuild stronger. So that concept, I just marinating on that was really helpful for myself, and also. Workouts are half a mental workout. It's half physical, but then it's half cheering yourself on to the finish line. Or so it's giving kind of your inner cheerleader a rest too. Because sometimes sometimes I know I need a rest day when I'm like, I couldn't cheer myself on through a workout today. I need to wait a day because then I could have the mental, like emotional energy to be like, you can do this, Nyla. And so also just the mental cheerleader needs a rest so you can cheer yourself on. And yeah, like kids, they get recess for a reason. Studies show that when you take a break, you're more productive. So it's just, yeah, it's going to make us more productive. Our workouts more productive, but just, I think just in life, you're going to be more productive when you take breaks, when it's maybe just a break from your to-do list. Like I add fun things on my to-do list. I don't just have like all the stuff you have to do, because those breaks, whether it's from a workout or just breaks during your workday, they make you more productive. And I think some people think, and I thought this for a long time, that it's going to make me less productive, but actually it's going to make your time later more efficient. So that's what comes to mind for that question.
Oh my gosh, I'm over here going, I should add fun things to my to-do list. I remember a few weeks ago, that I love going live with all of with all of my social media platforms, whether it be my Facebook group or the Supermama Society or my Instagram. But oftentimes when I do a couple of those in a row when I'm working, I get so excited and I put so much energy into it, like physical and mental. I will be like sweaty at the end of it because I'm like moving around and I'm just excited to talk about balance in every area. And oftentimes when I'm done, I realize that, I've been talking for a half an hour or an hour and I'm kind of tired. And I remember a couple weeks ago, I had done 2 live videos in a row. One of them was like a web class, and then the other one was a live with, I think it was a Supermama Society Q&A. And I was I was just exhausted at the end of it. And I was like physically exhausted. I was mentally exhausted. And I still had other things on my to-do list. And I was like, I don't even know how to rest. I am that person who I can rest from exercise now, but resting from work is actually really difficult for me. So I texted my assistant, who is amazing, and she is so good at resting. And she is she is such a blessing in my life because she will remind me to just, it's okay. The work will get done. Just chill out for a while. And I was like, if one wanted to take a rest, what would one perhaps do? I'm asking for a friend. And she gave me a few suggestions. She was like, you could take a nap. And I was like, nope, out of the question. I'm just not someone who naps. Naps are great. Naps are a great idea for a lot of people. But I just tend to wake up more tired. So that doesn't necessarily work for me. And we settled on me just going for like a really nice and relaxing walk, nothing fast or strenuous. It wasn't Yes, it was physical activity, but it was just me going for a walk. I put a podcast in and I just like breathed through it. And I walked for like 10 minutes and I came back and I felt so much more energized again and so much more ready to go back into my day. So I love that you mentioned that, the productivity rest, because I needed to hear that and I needed that reminder. And that's something that I've been working on in really the last several months. Cause I think, oh my goodness, I think just as a society, we are tired. This whole last year, 2020 and coming into 2021 has been exhausting. We've been in unprecedented times and oftentimes it can feel, I know our mutual friend Sarah Dalton talks about this. She talks about managing your energy. And I think she did a bonus call for the Supermama Society membership. And she was talking about how many of us have been without our like usual coping mechanisms for being able to just rest and to chill out and to kind of reset our energy in the last year, because we are at home and we're with our spouses more than ever, which can be great, but also hard. We were with our kids if we have them more than ever, which can be great, but also hard. We feel like we can't step away from work because work is in front of us all the time instead of going to an office and coming home. So I think that, for so many of us, it can sometimes feel impossible to get the rest in, but we have to have that perspective of rest is actually productive and rest is actually going to help with our productivity, whether it's, our fitness goals and wanting to be strong and to feel good. And so allowing our bodies that time to repair, or the productivity side of things where it's like, oh my gosh, if I actually rest, then I can come back and I can come back stronger mentally and be able to be more productive with my next task. So sorry for that little tangent, but it really just kind of sparked something in me where I'm like, yes, I am 100% there, and also needing to hear this myself. So you are definitely blessing me with your words today, Nyla, because I'm like, oh yeah, I am more productive when I take a little bit of rest.
And I think it's super helpful to remember that, the dangers of an all or nothing mindset, that like some rest is still worth doing. So maybe busy moms, they don't have a lot of time to themselves, but even 5 minutes is going to benefit you. It doesn't have to be like 30 minutes or an hour, just some still counts, and you're going to notice. So I think that's also helpful to just have the like all or something mindset versus like all or nothing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's so, so important, because I think so. You mentioned being an Enneagram 3, and I know that Enneagram 3s are very into productivity and getting things done. Enneagram 1s, like myself, are not far off. For me, I get stuck in this perfectionistic mindset often. Even to this day, though I am, when I am in health as an Enneagram 1, I am very much, I'm able to give myself that rest, and I'm able to give myself more of that grace and not beat myself up when I'm not doing things perfectly. But at the same time, that is something where it's very easy to fall into that all or nothing and be like, oh, well, if I can't actually take 20 minutes break, because such and such a book or a program or whatever told me that that's how much break I need to take in between work tasks or whatever it is, then I'm just not going to take a break at all. But you're right. Even 5 minutes can be a really great way to just take a break during the day, especially for busy moms who feel like they can't get a break, or they're at home with their kids and there's no place to go, which, mama, if that's you, I feel you. There's no place to go but outside. And these days, I'm looking outside at 6 inches of snow outside, and I'm like, well, we can't even really go outside. I mean, we can tomorrow, but today it's snowing. And so sometimes it does feel like it can be impossible, but even 5 minutes can be really, really powerful for even just our mental health.
I think even just a minute stepping outside on the deck, closing your eyes. Maybe if you're Christian, you're praying, or maybe you're doing some deep breathing, or just saying, I'm just going to be out here and I'm going to kind of, I know there's a practice called like grounding yourself. So you're like, what can I smell? What can I see? What can I, just using your senses, kind of just anchoring into that, kind of just a calming mechanism. And even just like not discrediting the power of 1 minute of to yourself. Even it doesn't even have to be 5 minutes, or just start small with what you have. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. The power of just breathing and giving yourself that time. I mean, how often do we go through our days forgetting to breathe? We're breathing, we're alive, but we're not actually breathing. We're not actually taking a second to take a deep breath, which is exactly what I tell my kids when my kids are getting overwhelmed. It's a lot easier sometimes to see our kids or other people getting overwhelmed because we are in that kind of outsider's perspective. And for us, it's just kind of oftentimes we're just go, go, go. Whether this is, we can even talk about this when we're talking about exercise too. We're just going along, we're working out every single day and we're just go, go, go. And then all of a sudden we're exhausted and we're like, where did that come from? And the same thing in our day. It's like, oh my gosh, I think I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. Maybe it's because I've barely even taken a breath today because I haven't stopped. So even just taking that minute and grounding ourselves and taking that breath is so powerful. Yes. Oh my gosh. So I would love to talk a little bit about rest from a spiritual perspective because like you mentioned, you're a Christian and I'm a Christian, and I love to bring faith into the podcast whenever we can. I know that not all of my listeners are of the same faith, but I believe that we can gain wisdom from each other no matter what our faith is. So I would love to talk a little bit about how rest is actually biblical, and how oftentimes as women, we feel like the message is just to give, to give, to give, and to not give ourselves the space of rest. So, can we talk a little bit about spiritual rest and why it's important from a spiritual perspective to give ourselves that rest?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it could be an entire podcast episode, though. I was thinking about this and I was even discussing it with my husband, and he's like, "Yeah, like rest is a huge theme in the Bible. Like that's that's a big question." So I love it. But I think there's maybe like three types of rest talked about in the Bible. So there in Hebrews 4, it talks about like laboring to enter that rest, and that kind of rest is like this faith or this trust in God. So like finding this like inner peace, like we're entering this rest, this place of trust that in God and not our own strengths or our own resources. So there's like that kind of rest that's talked about. And then in Matthew, I think it's talking about like more so like physical rest, or like the rest from to-do list, where it's saying like, are you weary? Are you burdened? Like come to me and I'll teach you how to rest. And so I think it talks about that. But then there's also the Bible talks about the Sabbath. So taking a day off once a week from whatever feels like work for you, and just spending that more with loved ones, more with God, and extra time with loved ones. And I do think it's okay to work out on a Sabbath day, because maybe working out to one person, that is just really refreshing. And they're like, oh, I have extra time today. I'm taking my Sabbath today. I can go for a really refreshing walk in the park with God. But then one person might be like, no, workouts are not refresh. Like they like it. I think it's because some people love to work out and some do it because they know it's beneficial. So they maybe don't love it as much. So just all that to say, like, it's okay to move on the Sabbath if that's like enjoyable for you. But so those are the three kind of like rests that I pick out in the Bible. But yeah, God does tell us all throughout the Bible to rest though. And like nothing bad will happen when we rest. God tells us to rest so we can trust his commands to benefit us, not to harm us. And in Leviticus, it says to let the fields rest, like a farming field. And when you let a farming like crop or whatever every 7 years, let it rest, it means that the next year the yield is going to be better. It's going to be more productive. And in Genesis, it says that our bodies are made from dust. So then that same principle of resting the land so it will be more productive applies to us, because we are made from the land, like God made us out of dust. So when I heard a pastor say that, I was like, that is so cool, that resting our bodies is going to yield a better like quote unquote crop for us too. And I just love that. And yeah, like rest in music. I love playing piano and ukulele, and like rest in music. It makes the music more beautiful, those moments of silence. And like, I love to make sourdough bread, and you rest your dough when you're making it, and that makes it better. And like white space on a wall it makes the few pictures that are there stand out more rather than a whole wall crammed with photos. And I just think that, yeah, God's created our bodies to, just like those examples, they turn out better and more beautiful when rest is incorporated. He's designed our bodies the same way. And yeah, when he created creation, he rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because he was role modeling to us how he wanted us to take care of our bodies. And yeah, just Brene Brown, like she has a quote about it taking courage to value rest and play in a world that puts busyness on a pedestal. And when I heard that quote, it brought me to Romans 12, which tells us not to copy the patterns and the values of the world. So the world doesn't maybe value rest, but God does, and we're called to value what he values. And that might be kind of countercultural sometimes. And yeah, I don't know. Jesus was a fan of self-care, and rest is self-care. And we see him in scripture. It says he would often take time away from the crowds, and he would go and pray. He would maybe walk, and it just filled his cup up so that he could later then go like pour into others. And so, yeah, if he sees it as a necessity, self-care, like rest, time alone to restore yourself, I don't know. If he values it, then we should value it too. And yeah, he's never going to call us to do something. If he calls us to rest, it's going to benefit us, not harm us. And so those are kind of the mindsets that came to mind when I was thinking of this question. But again, you could go in like 8 million directions with that. So
Oh my gosh, I'm smiling so big right now because I love those examples so much. I love that you said Jesus is a fan of self-care. Oh my gosh, that could be a book title. Can you write that book, please?
it's actually a chapter. I just created an audiobook, and that's a chapter title that I use.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I love that so much because it's true. He did. He took time for himself. He took time to fill his cup so that he could pour back out into others in the most beautiful way. And we can live by that example. And I love that, you continue to go back to the fact that, God's commands for us are for our good. And so when he tells us to rest, it is for our good. And it is so important to take that time because we come back stronger, we come back more productive, we come back better when we do take that time to rest. And it is all the way back into, biblical times that tell us that this is important. And it's our current modern world that tells us that we shouldn't slow down, whether it's that we need to keep hustling in order to achieve our goals, or that we need to keep working out in order to get stronger. We need to remember that it is that white space and that time that we take in between that is just as important and just as productive as the actual work that we do. So, oh my gosh, I love this so much. This is such a good conversation. And I know that this is going to uplift so many women who are listening who just need this reminder. Because I think a lot of us, like I mentioned before, we know we need rest. And for the woman who is listening, who was like, I was going to skip over this episode because I know, I hope that you are encouraged right now because I know I am. I'm like, okay, it's okay. I can take some rest because God said it was okay. And that is really good. So I know that the ladies listening love some really good practical advice. So if the woman who's listening is in a similar place that you were and that I was for so many years, where I felt like rest was unproductive, and especially when it came to fitness, I felt like if I rested, then for me, I felt like I wouldn't continue to get stronger. And now I know, we've talked about both in coaching and, here on the podcast, we've talked about the fact that when we do rest, our bodies build up stronger. It's actually productive, not counterproductive, like we've been talking about. So what do we do if we are in that place where we're like, okay, rest is kind of hard for me because I feel like maybe like you mentioned before, if I rest, then I'm not going to get back into it. Or if I rest, I'm not going to get stronger. What are some things that we can do on rest days from exercise? And how can we start to incorporate more rest in our lives as a whole?
Well, something that you taught me in coaching that has stuck with me forever is don't put rules around rest days. Cause I remember I like had messaged you and I felt like I was confessing, like I went for a 20-minute walk on my rest day. And you're like, that's okay. Like, did it feel restorative? And I was like, yeah, but wasn't I just supposed to sit on the couch all day on a rest day? And you just reminded me, like, don't put rules around rest days. And when you put rules around one area of your life, it can be really easy to put them in another area of life. So just be really on the lookout for that that black and white thinking in other areas, because I had put them around food, then I put it around exercise, and then I was like just trying to put it around rest days and thinking they had to look a certain way to quote unquote count. And so, yeah, just knowing that rest days can look different each week, just doing what feels restorative to you. And I would start with making a list of just what activities do feel restorative to you. And you can even do it in different departments, different categories, like what feels mentally restorative to you, socially restorative, like spiritually restorative, physically. Just go through all those different categories and write some things that come up for you, activities. And I don't know, I love foam rolling on a rest day. I've really gotten into foam rolling. I love that, or a gentle walk, or restorative yoga, stretching, or sometimes nothing. And I'll do something fun instead, like during that time that I normally would work out. Maybe I'll go bake something, a new recipe, or I'll go for coffee with a friend. Just do what feels restful to you. And I would schedule in rest, and just the Enneagram 3 in me, we struggle to do fun things. So I have to schedule it in instead of just doing work. And so at the end of the week, I actually schedule in like my fun things, and you could do that with your rest. So when I'm scheduling my fun things, I'm like, hey, what are 2 fun things that I'm going to for sure do this week that I'm really like, when I think about doing them, I like perk up. And maybe it's like, I'm going to drive to that park that I used to live by, and I'm going to go run in that park. Or I'm going to try this new recipe out and make it, but do that with rest. Like, what are 2 like restful things, or however many, I don't know, it doesn't have to be 2, but just however much you want to rest that week. Just plan it in like a dentist appointment, that you know that if you miss it, there's going to be a fee. You're going to have to pay, and you're going to pay in the fact that it's not going to feel so good. And I love how Paige Schmidt, she talks on her podcast about visualizing your future self. And so just picture your future self making the decision not to rest, and then picturing your future self making the decision to rest, and just really getting detailed about like, how do you feel? What's the expression on your face when you've made both of those like scenarios happen? And then it really can help you make the choice to rest, knowing that in a couple hours, in a day, you're going to be glad you made that choice. And so those are some of my tips, I think. And also just the difference between on your to-do list, like this needs to get done and this would be nice to get done. Because maybe the laundry, it would be nice to get it folded and put away, but it would actually be okay if it stayed there in the laundry basket for 3 more days. So just, what needs to get done today, and what just would be nice to get done, but it's okay if it doesn't. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love bringing it to that visualization and visualizing who we want to be and how we want to feel. Because I know that when I visualize my ideal future self, it is someone who is calm and centered. And I know that rest is going to help contribute to that. And so I love that. And I love that you mentioned scheduling it in. The perfectionist in me loves scheduling things in to my calendar. But you know what? It is important, because those of us who are just go, 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 we need that reminder. We need that dentist appointment that we're going to get charged for, because we're not going to feel good if we don't rest. And I realize, as you're saying this, something that popped into my mind was that I've never regretted resting. I've never regretted actually taking that time for myself. And whether it is just a deep breath in the afternoon in the midst of the craziness, or a walk in the middle of my workday that's really restorative, or taking the day off from the workout when I am really sore, which, by the way, is a really good reason for taking a rest day, because it means that your body is broken down and it needs that rest to build back up. But I've never regretted taking that rest. And I think there is that fear oftentimes around slowing down, around resting. But when we allow ourselves it as a part of just our weekly routine, it becomes something that's natural and that's second nature. And it becomes something that we crave, and something that we are using to honor our bodies, just like we are making sure that we are eating foods that feel good and actually moving. It becomes something that is just as important for us. And I think that we look forward to too. I know I look forward to my rest days. Typically, my rest days are, for me, on a rest days from movement, at least. I try to get that rest throughout the week, like we're talking about. And, I just admitted sometimes I don't, especially on my full work days. Like my Thursdays and Fridays are really heavy work days for me. And so it can be easy for me to just go, go, go and not stop. But when I do take a rest, it's always incredible. But I know on my Saturdays are usually my day that I have a little bit of extra time. And I'm just able to just take it a little bit slower. And I've never, woken up on a Sunday and been like, man, having a restful Saturday was terrible. I shouldn't have had a restful Saturday. It would have been so great to be busy and harried and all over the place. I never feel like that. And I think that we sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to feel so unproductive and I'm going to feel like I got nothing done or I'm going to feel so lazy. But rest isn't lazy. Rest is essential. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much for those reminders and those like really practical steps for really taking some rest.
Oh, I love that so much that what you're saying about how you've never regretted a rest day. Because I know there's a saying floating out there like, oh, I've never regretted a workout. But when I've heard that saying, I'm like, oh, I have many times regretted doing a workout. And just the mindset, like just because you could doesn't mean you should. Just because you could work out, yeah, it doesn't mean you have to. And it's okay to pivot from a plan. I learned that from you too, that if you decided, I'm going to work out today, and then it's that day comes or that you're about to put on your workout clothes and you're like, I just don't think this is a good fit for how my body's feeling, or my schedule got really busy. It's not a failure if you don't work out and you plan to. It's just a success in listening to your body cues or just the flow of your day, and that's okay. And you should be proud of that. It's not a failure. It's just, you know what, I'm being flexible, and that's awesome, and I'm proud of that. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind too. That's been helpful for me.
Yes. Yeah. And that is part of intuitive movement, right? I think the idea of intuitive movement can be so nebulous, very much like the idea of intuitive eating in the beginning stages of learning. What does it actually mean to eat intuitively? What does it mean to tune into our intuition? It sounds kind of woo woo. And we realize it's really just tuning into our bodies and tuning into ourselves. And the same thing with movement. I know this happened to me just last week. I love the Peloton workout app, and I happen to have a treadmill at my apartment complex, and I'll do some of their treadmill workouts when I'm a runner, and I've been a runner for years and years, and I absolutely love running. But I don't love running inside, but I miss running when it's cold outside, and I'm just not willing to do something that makes me miserable for the sake of exercise. So I don't run outside in the wintertime, but I will run inside with some of these fun workouts from some of these instructors that I really love. I love that they're all about strengthening your mind and your body, and they're not at all about, changing the way your body looks. And so there's this one instructor that's been doing this workout series that I love, and I've been doing it once a week. I kind of have it on my schedule because I actually have the time to do it with 2 kiddos, mom life. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this workout. And I woke up that morning and I was just kind of sluggish and I was kind of tired. And part of me was a little sad because I was like, oh, I was so excited to do this workout. I really love it. And then I reminded myself that workout will always be there. I can always go back and do it another time. But today, my body is screaming at me that I need some rest. So I went and did a 20-minute walk and it felt great. And just because I wanted to move. So other days I could have just taken a total rest day. I happened to have taken a rest day the day before, and I was like, I'll walk and see how I feel. Sometimes I walk and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to run. And I did not feel like that at all. I walked and I was like, nope, this is good. This is great. And it's so beautiful to come to that place of being able to check in with ourselves and being able to be like, okay, today's not the day for that. And I'm just going to take an extra rest day, or today is the day for that. And maybe I'm going to take a rest day tomorrow because I do feel good. And, we didn't really talk about the other side of that. We're talking about the importance of rest, but it's okay to listen to our bodies if our body is feeling energized. And we're like, just like you said, not putting rules around rest days. If you're like, okay, this is my scheduled rest day is Saturday. And on Saturday, you're like, I have all of the energy of 1,000 monkeys and I just really want to go for a run. I don't know where that came from, but that's a thing apparently. And I'm just going to go for a run. And you do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's listening to our intuition too. And so it can go both ways. So yeah, oh my gosh, so much goodness. so many good reminders of, not putting rules around rest days and really just tuning in to what our bodies need and allowing it to be what it is, because our bodies are so powerful, and I think we forget that sometimes. It's so easy to listen to those, those snippets of, never regret a workout, or those, you have to work out every single day or else. And remember that our bodies have so much wisdom. And if we just listen, just like with food, it can be really, really powerful. So yeah. Oh my gosh, Nyla, thank you so much. Do you have any last bits of wisdom that you want to share? Anything that I guess we didn't touch on? Any encouragement you want to give to the women listening?
I guess I would just love them to start associating rest not with like weakness or lazy or less than, but like positive, strong, empowering words like rest is courageous, because we live in a world that maybe doesn't value rest, or rest is strong, rest is wise. Just those different, you switch your language in your head about how you think and describe rest. I think that can make it more helpful. And also, you were talking about how you love doing certain workouts, and joyful movement is really, I think, super important. And I know, like, when I had feared, like, if I take a rest day, then I'm never going to work out again, my husband would say, like, but you like working out. Like, why would you stop doing something you enjoy? And then so that kind of just like someone coming in to say, like, why would you stop doing something that you enjoy? And I'd say, oh, I guess, but what if just something always comes up that I can never work out again another single day of my life? And he said, Nyla, do you really think every single day something's going to come up that you can never do a workout? And so just kind of realizing, if your fears around rest, is there maybe some not rational thought behind it? Because I definitely needed my husband to kind of point out some of just things that weren't logical that I was thinking, and that can be really powerful. But yeah, I guess those are my last things that I wanted to share. Yeah, just see rest as that it's something so important. It's not a luxury. You need it. Everyone needs it, and you don't have to earn it. You need it because you're human. It's not like, oh, I did this much, now I earned my rest. No, you just need it. And also, you don't have to change your food up if you've rested. Just your body cues go with you everywhere you go. So just tune into your body; it'll adjust. And I just think that is really powerful, because I know for a long time, if I did like yoga, I would just restrict more those days because I'm not burning as many calories. But the knowledge that we have, I think it's BMR, like I don't know what it's called, basal metabolic, whatever, the rate, like the calories that your body burns if you just laid on the couch all day, like it's not working for free. There's still processes that need energy. And even if you didn't move a muscle, your body still needs food. And because, yeah, it's still doing a lot of crazy stuff in there that needs fuel. And yeah, I think that is all that I wanted to say. Also, your monkey comment, I had to really like calm myself down. The 1,000 monkey thing, I was like, Nyla, don't keep laughing, because I don't know why that really made me giggle. I've never heard that before.
Neither have I. It came out of my brain, so you guys can just take that little piece of joy today. Oh my gosh, this has been so fun to talk about, and thank you so much for bringing up food as well. And, I've mentioned, I talk a ton about intuitive balanced eating, and that is such a fear that so many women have, is that, especially if they have struggled with their relationship with food and their body in the past, feeling like they have to adjust their food in order to take a rest day, but that our bodies do tell us what we need. And our bodies are meant to change on a daily basis. We're not meant to eat the same amount on a daily basis. We're not meant to move the same amount on a daily basis. And it's okay if you eat as much on a rest day as you do on a day where you're working out. And it's okay if you eat more on days when you're working out, but that's up to your body, not up to you to control. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think that is a fear a lot of women have. And so, oh my gosh, so important. So, Nyla, I would love if you could share with the ladies listening how they can connect with you more, if they want to connect with you on social media. I know you mentioned that you have an ebook that you just wrote and an audiobook that you just recorded. I would love for you to share more.
Yeah, I hang out mostly on Instagram, so you can find me at Nutrition with Nyla, and I have a website, nutritionwithnyla.org, and I have a blog on there where I share why I ate or why I moved, and it's an inside glimpse inside a mind of an intuitive eater and intuitive exercise. And I tell people really hone in on the why I chose, not like what I chose. I don't. It's not for comparison. It's just I'm wanting to show people like what intuitive eating, intuitive exercise, and rest days too just looks like from an intuitive eating perspective. And yeah, I just actually it is releasing tomorrow this ebook and audiobook. So it's called Confident Bod Club, and it's a 2-week devotional designed for Christian women that want to improve body image biblically. And so yeah, there's the ebook version, but then I decided, you know what, I love podcasts, so I'm gonna like make an audiobook version of this so people can choose to either read it or be read to, because I that's fun. And also it's easy in life when you're busy to just pop in some earbuds and be listening to an audiobook that way. So yeah, it's they're like quick 5-minute reads, and it starts with a Bible verse, then there's a teaching, and then there's a truth to think on. So it's kind of like summarized what we talked about, and you can kind of chew on that truth all day. And yeah, it just poured out of me. One December, God just told me, like, gave this idea to me, and I went home and I wrote it really quick and edited it. And it has been like, I don't know, I was, when I was editing it, I was thinking like, this is helping me reading it again. Like I wrote this, and then I'm like, no, I didn't write this. Like he gave me the words. Like it's just so powerful. I feel like his name should be on the title, not mine. And so yeah, I'm super excited that it comes out tomorrow. So but by the time this probably comes out, it will be already out. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. And I'm so excited to listen to it. I love that you made it an ebook and also an audiobook, because I'm definitely an audiobook listener. And I think a lot of the moms listening, I mean, they are listening to a podcast right now. So clearly audio is something that they're interested in. But I think that the audio option is so, so helpful, especially for busy women and moms who just need to listen to something as they're going through their day, and having that powerful message either at the start of their day or throughout their day, I think is going to be so huge. So, oh my gosh, I am so excited for you, Nyla. This was so incredible, so much wisdom. You know that I have 3 final fun rapid fire questions I love to ask before we go. So, are you ready for them?
Yep.
Awesome. So, my first question is, what is your favorite thing to cook?
I I love baking. I think I'm more of a baker. I do cook, but I like baking, and I love baking with beans, like black beans or chickpeas and things like that. And my current really favorite thing is a recipe my sister gave me, and um, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it uses aqua faba or faba. I'm not sure how you do it. So bean water, and I had never used that before. And it's the bean, kind of like the juice that the bean
Yeah.
juice that the beans come in. And I never knew that you could use that. And so I love finding ways I don't have to throw out food. I like being thrifty. So yeah, you just put it in, and it kind of, my understanding is that I think it replaces the egg. It was a vegan recipe. And I'm not vegan, but it's okay to make vegan recipes even if you're not vegan. And yeah, it's a coconut black bean fudge recipe. And the
Oh.
texture, when you make it the way that the recipe says, like the texture literally is fudge. And my husband doesn't usually like my chickpea peanut butter brownies and stuff that I make, but he's like, this is pretty good. Like out of the things you've made, this is not bad. So that's my favorite thing right now.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Can you shoot me is it like a link? Because I would love to
Yeah,
put that in the show notes. I also want to try it
sure.
myself.
Yeah, for sure. It's just on a
I've
blog.
heard
So
of aquafaba before, and I don't think I've ever actually made it myself. When I was vegan years and years ago now, and I remember hearing about it, and I've tried some crazy things. I've made banana cream pie with seaweed. It's
oh dear.
it's a seaweed that like turns into a gelatinous texture, and other people are cringing or like, what are you talking? It was actually really delicious.
Oh.
Irish moss, you soak it and it turns into this gelatinous texture, and you blend it with bananas. And I think I use like honey or maple syrup. It sounds disgusting, but it's actually really delicious. And I feel like the aquafaba is kind of a similar thing where it's like, is that actually going to be good? But then it turns out really well. I've heard of people using it as almost like a whipped cream type of thing. You can whip it, and then I'm sure it's like the fiber that's with the chickpeas or whatever it is. And so that's really interesting. So I'm excited to try that. That sounds really good. I love that. I have a friend who made me chickpea blondies, and those were
Mm.
really good.
When you were talking about your banana cream pie and you said you made it with seaweed, I thought you like replaced the bananas with seaweed. So I thought you made like a cream seaweed pie. And that's why I was like, that sounds really gross, Kristin. But
That does sound really
but then
gross.
but then you explained it, and then I realized, oh, it's just doing similar like what the
Yeah, there were still
aquafaba does.
bananas.
And you can't taste it. It just changes the texture. It honestly, my thing tasted like coconut. It has coconut oil in it. So it tasted like coconut and chocolate. So couldn't taste
Yeah.
it.
Oh my gosh. So good. I know if you think of like all of the crazy things that we eat anyway, just in foods, like in, packaged foods, because we all eat some packaged foods, right? And there's a lot crazier things than beans or seaweed in the foods that we eat. You're just making it at home. That's so cool. I love that. That's such a cool answer. So then what is your favorite thing to order if you are going out to eat when that's a thing, or ordering takeout, or have someone else cook for you?
Um, like we make sourdough. We got into sourdough over COVID. Just had more time together, so we got into that, and we kind of tag toe or not tag team. I mean, our sourdough, and I like feed it throughout the week when we're not using it. But then my husband actually like does the stretch and folds with the sourdough. So I like when he makes the sourdough for me, and he makes a really good rye sourdough, and I love eating it with fried eggs and cheese and some salt and pepper and and that's really delicious. Or my sister makes really good enchiladas, and she's given me the recipe, and I don't know, it's just doesn't taste right when I make it, even though I'm following her recipe. So I love that. And then my mom, just some of the family or like the childhood foods that my mom used to make, they taste better when sometimes the original person makes them, even when you're following the recipe. So she makes some sweet and sour, we call them mighty meatballs. And I love when she makes those with rice, and like so good. And yeah, they just taste better when they make them.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, yes. I totally think that food tastes better when somebody else makes it for you, especially if it is those kind of nostalgic recipes or some of your favorite recipes. I know my mom has this broccoli bake recipe from the 80s that she's made she usually makes it for like Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, kind of like the big holidays. And she's offered the recipe to me, and I know exactly what's in it. I could probably make it like by heart, but I've never made it before, and I never will make it because it's just so special, and it's just so yummy and cheesy, and broccoli. It's so good. And yeah, it's so special just because she makes it. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So my final question, because you know that we love here on the Healthy Balance Mama podcast to talk about balance in every area. I love to ask my guests, what does your beautiful balance mean to you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and the word just harmony comes to mind. Like your different days complementing each other. They don't have to look the same, but over time, all the important things get attention, and that just creates this beautiful balance. And yeah, like harmony, I love music, and harmony, that part is not the same as like the melody. They're different. And so yeah, just harmony with your days and how they complement each other, even though they don't look the same. And yeah, that's just kind of what came to mind when I thought of that question.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. I love that so much. And I think that very much aligns with my view of balance too. It's not about perfection. It is about, every day is going to be a little bit different, but they all kind of go together. So, oh my gosh, what a perfect way to end. I love it so much. Nyla, thank you so much for your wisdom today, for sharing your story and being so open and vulnerable about the struggles that you've had with rest, and giving us some really practical and even biblical wisdom on resting. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthy Balance Mama podcast. If you loved it, would you take a screenshot and share it with a friend over on Instagram and tag me in it? It helps me so much to know what you love and are taking away from each episode. If you really loved it, would you hop over to iTunes and give me a star rating and review? Every rating and review helps this podcast be seen and heard by more women who need to hear the message of balance and wellness without deprivation. It's the best free gift you could give me. And as a reminder, the information and opinions on this podcast are meant for education and inspiration only, and are not to be taken as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with a trusted practitioner before making any changes. Have a beautiful day, friend, and I'll see you in the next episode.